It is the US Masters this Thursday, the 10th of April. My name's Tom Brownlee from bookiebashing.net, and this is a deep dive into a bet that we looked at last year, and it won, and the year before that, and it won, and it won the year before that. And before we go any further, Alexa, what is the date today? Today is Sunday, the 6th of April, and that means the final lineup, the final participants in the Masters have not yet been decided because one of the spots goes to the winner of the Texas Open, and the Texas Open doesn't finish for a few hours. It looks like it's going to be Brian Harman who got a spot anyway due to winning the Open, but that means that the markets haven't fully gone up and got liquid at the bookmakers and the exchanges. A lot of the secondary markets haven't gone up, and that's precisely what it is that we're going to talk about. Sometimes when you think that everybody else is wrong and you're right, it's got to be you that's wrong. I think in this market, there's one trader who, puts it up, tries to calculate it, maybe having a bit of a lazy Sunday, and everyone else copies him. And for the life of me, I don't get the prices that the bookies go in this market. What market is it? It is US Masters Hole-in-One, specifically US Masters No Hole-in-One. 96-person field. You can get rid of a lot of them because they're invitationals. Vijay Singh's not going to win it. Okay? The amateurs aren't going to win it. But looking at Hole-in-One, there are 4 holes at Augusta. It's played at Augusta every year, if you don't know this, which makes it fun to trend, because when the other big majors, they change the golf course, and it's quite hard with small sample sizes to look at things like Hole-in-One. It's easier at Augusta because the holes don't change. I mean, the pin positions change. There are 4 holes: hole 4, hole 6, hole 12, and hole 16 that are par 3s. That's where the Holes-in-One are going to come from. You're not going to get one on a par 4 or a par 5. 4 holes. And it's the hole 16 as the island green that generally gets about 2/3 of the hole-in-ones. The last 2 hole-in-ones were in 2021. It was Tommy Fleetwood who got a hole-in-one on the island green, the 16th, and Corey Connors who got a hole-in-one in hole 6. So how many holes-in-one are there every year? Let's put a graph up. Right, here we go. Hole-in-one every year. There are between 0 and 3 holes-in-one per year since 1990. There was a hole-in-one in 1934. I don't care about that for this analysis, and neither should you either. When we're looking at trending data backwards, we do have to cut a point off in time where we're like, there's just no chance that that data is relevant to what I'm doing today. And I've gone as a starting point for 34 years of data, 1990 to 2024. And I'm going to try and work out an average number of holes-in-one per year, and then I'm trying to make an argument over why that's relevant. And if I'm right, then it's quite easy then to project how many holes-in-one we think are going to be this year, and we can get a probability out using Poisson to say what we think the odds of a hole-in-one are. And by subtracting that from 1, we know what the hole-in-one no odds should be. And that's what we've been betting on in previous years. And that's what I very much intend to be betting on this year. So the question is, how many holes-in-one do we expect to have in the 2025 US Masters? So looking back to 1990, there were an average of 0.629 holes-in-one per year. Looking back to the year 2000, it was 0.76. We started having a bit more. And looking back to 2010, there were 0.93. So, from 2010 to 2024, just less than 1 hole-in-one per year. Although, since 2020, we've only had 2 holes-in-one in 5 years, and that's 0.4 holes-in-one per year. So which one of those are we going to use? Are we going to use the data from 2020, from 2010, from 2000, from 1990? There's 2 things going on with golf, okay? The golfers are getting better, and the PGA are trying to counteract that with changing various rules. And those are the two things that we have to consider when looking at hole-in-one. Hole-in-one does involve a lot of luck. You know, you can be a really good... Did you see Bryson's, was it TikTok video, where he was trying to go over his house and he got one shot on day one, two shots on day two, three shots on day three. And Bryson, one of the best golfers in the world, I think he's like fifth or sixth favorite in the US Masters this year, actually. It still took him 16 days. Yeah, he's fifth favorite at 20-1, joint fourth, if you like. Still took him 16 days to get a hole-in-one, which is 16 plus 15 plus 14 plus 13 plus shots, right? So there's a lot of luck. They say about 2,500 to 1. But then, obviously, if you're a better golfer, slightly better odds. And then, obviously, when the greens are hard, slightly worse odds. And the greens at Augusta are famous for being off the scale on something called the Stimpmeter, which they don't even allow on Augusta. But the Stimpmeter is a piece of equipment that allows you to measure how fast the ball will roll along a green. And when it's lightning fast, you know me, have never played on a golf course that's like PGA lightning fast Stimpmeter, because we just wouldn't be able to putt. It's like putting on glass. And Augusta's off the chart. So they're very, very hard greens at Augusta. So it's probably a lot more than 2,500 to 1. So what changes have been happening? Well, we know that the golfers are becoming better athletes. They're getting fitter. They're having diets. They're training more. The days of John Daly turning up with a 12-pack of beer and 20 Marlboro and winning a PGA event, unfortunately, are behind us, which we can all say is detrimental to the sport as a whole. And I would definitely encourage more alcohol in televised PGA events. But we're not going to change that. We know the golfers are getting better. Does that mean that the odds and the frequency of holes-in-one are getting better? Well, we know that, you know, luck plays a big part to hole-in-ones, but also they're not just getting better because the PGA are changing rules. A lot of the rules they're changing actually are around driving distance. They have a problem with driving distance. As Bryson starts to hit at 380 yards, he's taking away a lot of the hazard of the golf course. And it's very difficult just to tell golf courses be longer. They've only got a finite amount of land that they can build on. And also, it's not really fair on the amateur golfer for all golf courses just to be extended at 100 yards per hole, because the PGA Tour professionals are hitting it so much further. So they make changes to driver shafts, to the dimples in golf balls so that it doesn't fly as far. And a lot of the focus is down that line. Here's the thing. We don't care about any of that. We just care about par threes with an iron. You know, 170 yards, 155 yards, 180 yards, and 240 yards, which is still an iron for these guys, are your four distances. So we can dismiss all of the rule changes about the ball going further. What really happened since 1990 that did change anything? There was one thing that happened. It was in the year 2010, and wedges were becoming, and irons were becoming such that the groove on the face, a U-shaped groove, technology was improving that so much that the spin that they were getting in 2009 was pretty outrageous. And they were able to spin the ball and have it come back in almost any direction, quite a long way. And to counteract the technology changes, the PGA implemented a rule in 2010 where that V-shaped groove became a U-shaped groove, and that made it much harder to spin the ball. So my question is, did the change in 2010 make a fundamental difference in the number of birdies or eagles on par threes? An eagle, of course, is a hole-in-one on a par three. Because if it changed in 2010, then we can probably only go back to 2010, and we have to stop our average hole-in-one data there. But if nothing changed in the scoring of PGA professionals all the way back to 2010, if nothing really changed, then we can go back a little bit further and have some more data. Because this question is going to come down to how far back do we go with our data. So let's have a look at par three scoring or better, birdie or better, on the PGA Tour going back to the year 2000. I did this graph last year. I've updated it with a year's worth of data. What we see here is 13% of PGA Tour professionals get a birdie or an eagle on a par 3 all the way back to the year 2000. And actually from 2000 to 2008, it got harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, which goes against slightly the narrative that the PGA was spinning, that, you know, the players are finding these par 3s easier. They weren't. They were finding it harder all the way through the 2000s. That jump, though, that jump is not at 2010, it's at 2009. And the reason for the jump back up to 13% in 2009 was to do with weather. The weather conditions were fairly extreme in 2009, and they were actually benefiting the players by slowing down the greens with a lot of rain. And that meant that the greens were slower, and therefore there were more birdies. And that's the reason for the massive change in 2008 to 2009. It wasn't anything to do with changes from the PGA. And in 2010, they changed it. What happened? Birdies actually went up. You would have thought that they would have gone down because of the lack of spin control. And they did do the following couple of years, but we're talking such marginal differences. 12.9 to 13.2. It's not much. And from 2010 all the way to 2025, those average birdies are better. They're probably a little bit over 13%, not much over it, and it really regressed back down to 13% last year. So what does that tell me? It tells me that not much changed as a result of the equipment rule change in 2010. Therefore, I'm going to trend data back further. I'm going to go back to the year 2000. I'm going to take 25 years of data. Now, look back to the hole-in-one graph, okay? What do we know from this? We know from 1990 there were 0.63 holes in one per year. From 2000 there were 0.76, and from 2010 there were 0.93. And so the relevant figure I'm going to choose for the Masters is 0.76. Now you may want to choose one of the other two. Actually, it sort of doesn't matter, because no matter what you choose, even if you choose 2020 to 2024, 2010 to 2024, go back to 2000s, go back to 1990, no matter what you chose last year, every bookmaker was value for hole-in-one no. I don't know why. Like, is everyone betting hole-in-one yes? Really, and they've driven the price down, and the bookmakers, or have they just got it wrong? Or does one bookmaker go up and they all copy each other? I don't know. But I'm going for 0.76 holes in one per year. I'm 2000 to 2024. And at 0.76, that means that the odds, yes, the fair odds of a hole-in-one are 1.88. And the fair odds of no are 2.14. So if we can get 2.15 or 23 to 20 and higher, then we have a value bet. And obviously, the higher we can get, the more value it is. So what was it last year? Well, the bottom price last year was 2.6, and that was at Coral, right? 13 to 8 at Boyles, Star Sports, Bet365 were 13 to 8. Sky Bet were 9 to 4. Sky Bet were 9 to 4 on a bet that I currently think is 2.14. I mean, it should be very, after the margin, they should be going evens on no, is what I think. It should be like evens on no, and maybe 8 to 11 on yes is what they should be offering, because there's 0.76 holes in one per year. Even if we went back to 2010, the no should be 2.5, and all of those 13 to 8 are great, and the 9 to 4 is amazing. So when the markets open tomorrow, I am going to be looking for 11 to 8 and higher. And if I can get 9 to 4, it's going to be absolutely amazing. And it just seems for year and year that this has been good. And it won in 2024, and it won in 2023, and it won in 2022, and it lost in 2021, and it won in 2020 when the Masters was rescheduled in November due to the COVID pandemic. So, you know, give me a 9 to 4 that's won for 4 of the last 5 years. I mean, of course, it lost for 4 of the last 4 years before that, but we are just talking about long-term data. And I just think every year it's a value bet. In terms of who is going to win the Masters, well, Scottie Scheffler has gone first, 10th, first, and he seems to be playing well again. I mean, we were praying for luck that he might get arrested or have another kitchen injury. Neither seems to be true. And so Scotty is at the top of the field at 6.2, and you can't argue with him. And if he plays well, he's going to ruin it for everybody, like he always does. Who do I like? If I had to pick one, the reason I picked this guy is for years we did these metrics graphs where we take, driving distance, driving accuracy, greens in regulation, scrambling percentages, and we try and fit them to the tournament, the specific tournament. And for years and years, Min Woo Lee was like right at the top. He scored so well, and for year after year, I thought he was going to win every tournament. He never did. He did get his first win last week, which was enough to get him into the Masters. He's 50-1 just now, and without knowing what places or any value from the each way tracker that we have at Bookie Bashing, because that doesn't go live until tomorrow morning. We'll get that live a day early because it is the US Masters. I don't think I'm going to be able to bet on this tournament without Min Woo Lee. Now, a little bit of marketing at the end of this. So if you are just tuning in for the bet and not interested in Bookie Bashing, you can sign off now. If you are interested in Bookie Bashing, we're going to do something for the Masters this year. If you sign up for a golf tier, which is £49 per month, you will get access from now until next Sunday to the ultimate subscription, which is everything that we've got at Bookie Bashing, all trackers, all tools, which is normally £150 per month. At Bookie Bashing, we have a tracker that identifies value each way bets at all the bookmakers that are open to UK facing customers, as well as all of the shops. And if the shops do shop specific terms and places, we change the tracker so that reflects the terms and places that are in the shops. And if you'd started with a £1,000 bankroll when we started tracking our golf model, you would have started that in 2019 and just copied the bets that we put up from the golf tracker every single week. You'd currently have £18,000 in your bankroll. How much exactly? £18,362, starting with 1,000. That's a return on investment of 30%, 29.2% over all of the years. So it's quite a good model. How it works, I don't mind telling you, is we just look at the number of places and the terms offered by a bookmaker, and we just try and work out the odds that everyone's going to finish exactly first, exactly second, exactly third, exactly fourth, exactly fifth. So if any bookmaker's gone weird and gone 9 places, 1 to 6 odds, well, we know what the fair odds of that should be, and we just work out the equity of the bet that they're offering based on our assumption of what it should be. And we're doing okay just now. 2019 we made £3,000, 2020 £800, 2020 was a year where all the golf tournaments were off, 2021 3,000, 2022 5,000, 2023 2,000, 2024 1,500 quid, 2025 £1,400 profit. That's all from £1,000 starting bankroll. We're nearly at 2024 levels of profit already in 2025. That's not too bad. So yeah, come over to bookiebashing.net, just sign up for the golf tier. If you're already on the golf tier, you don't have to cancel, don't worry. You'll just have access to everything else, and you can see what's going on with our horse racing tracker, which has won gold at the SBC Awards, as well as the golf tracker, the combo bets tracker, the coupon tracker, the early payout tracker, as well as all of the darts and football that we model ourselves in-house to get an edge over the bookmakers, the shops, and the exchanges. So whatever platform it is that you're able to access, you should be able to find an edge at bookiebashing.net. Good luck. Hope you can get on Hole in One No, and we make some money for the 4th year in a row.